Wake up! Wake up! The 49ers, what? Have woken up. That's right. They beat the Bears. They beat them in resounding fashion, and we're here to talk about it with you. Let's go right now.
It is Monday, December 9th. We are brought to you by Sam's Chowder House, and we'll be sending diners down to Sam's in a better mood than they've been in the last month. For the first time in a long time, we actually saw the 49ers playing 49ers branded football. It had been a while, but Larry, I really think that's their first four-quarter game of the 2024 season. 4 mistake-free quarters of football. They haven't strung too many of those together, and without getting too much caught up in the moment, being a prisoner of the moment, and, just forget about the opponent. How are you looking? I think that's maybe the best the 49ers have looked in maybe over a calendar year, because they have been not quite themselves since that Christmas loss to the Ravens. And I know that they won a few playoff games on the way to going to a Super Bowl, but I never felt that they saved their best for last. Unfortunately, they peaked a little early last season. And then after that Ravens debacle on Christmas, they were never quite the same. This was the most Shanahan-looking 49er game outcome execution we've seen in a real long time, Larry. And I think it was very welcome, not only for the fans, but in that locker room as well. They needed that.
Oh, yeah. It's hard. It's a hard sport when you don't win in a while. And, they needed this one. It wasn't just, they needed any win, right? They needed a win. And it didn't matter if it was 38-37 and they looked like S. It didn't matter if it was, 10-9 and they looked like S. They had to get a win. That was first and foremost. So check that box, the victory, obligatory victory, you got to have, check that. Okay. But that was probably decided at halftime because it was 24-0 at half. And the numbers in the end of the first half were crazy. We'll hit that at some point. But to me, Damon, the real positive here was not just that they won, it was how they won. You're right. Kyle Shanahan, I thought this was his best play calling in a long time. He didn't have Christian. He didn't have Ayuk. He's got a, offensive line that, you don't have Trent on the left side. You don't have Banks on the left side. You're without, a lot of key guys. You still don't have Greenlaw back. You don't have Bosa. You're not 100% on defense. Your special teams, it's always cross your fingers. So, but Kyle Shanahan came out in this game. I thought there was more. I haven't been able to get through it all the way on the all-22 or really, really dig deep. I'll know more tomorrow at this time. But I think my sense of it was Brock Purdy was under center more than he was in the shotgun in the past. He's been in the shotgun a lot. I thought he was under center a few more times in this game. I also felt like there was a little bit more play action, definitely more screens. And there were indications that the Bears, I saw some of the, things that we hit on last week going into this game. Hey, expect the Niners to throw more screen passes because the Bears struggle against screen passes. Sure enough, the Bears struggled against screen passes and the Niners threw more of them. I also thought it was really creative the way that Kyle got Guerendo off on a bunch of different launch points. So like the defense never really got comfortable with zeroing in on exactly how and where Isaac was going to touch the ball. And he threw it to him a couple times. He moved him around a little bit, gave him a bunch of different looks. I thought that was very creative. And then on the defense, and then, obviously Kittle stepped up with a huge performance. But on the defensive side, they were flying around. Yatir Gross-Matos, 3 sacks. Leonard Floyd, 2 sacks. For those guys to step up without Nick Bosa, D. Winters. I only got through the first quarter and a half of the rewatch, but D. Winters,
he's all over the place.
Absolutely flying. It wasn't just he was all over the place. It was the speed of which he was playing. He was just launching himself, and I love that.
Looked really good in his return.
Who's that?
Talanoa Hufanga.
Safanga looked great. And so they had guys flying on defense. And it's like, you know what? I talked to Sorensen this week. He was down. But you know what? They didn't bury their heads and cry about it. They shut down the Bears' run completely. Absolutely shut down the Bears' run. DeAndre Swift ran for 2.7 a carry. and he had gone for 5 yards a carry last week against the Lions. So it was really important that the Niners didn't just win. They kind of found a recipe to win going down the stretch, and I think they found it. Run the hell out of Isaac Guerendo, and hopefully the foot's not too serious, but run the hell out of Guerendo and see if you can play action pass out of that. Don't just, maintain your balance, but with a run edge. And they were 34 runs and 26 passes, and to me, that's a good ratio.
Look, I unfortunately subject myself to too much Chicago Bears football, and they played as bad of a game as they played all year, maybe their worst game of the year. And you could say, Thomas Brown being thrusted into the new head coaching role, he was a little bit over his skis, but we both thought that the Bears would come in bouncy. They came in rather lifeless, actually. It looked like they were unconfident in their own game plan. And then whatever might have happened, it just felt like the 49ers took it away with a systematic, opening drive that just had, this is how it's supposed to look written all over that. Kyle, I love when he had a choice to kick a field goal to go up 17-0, or try to put your foot on the throat, pick up a first down, and try to go up 21-0. That's the path that he chose. He stayed aggressive. And the data point said stay aggressive because the Bears are doing nothing offensively here. So even if you do turn it over right here, I even said on my live stream, Larry, I would rather them go for 4th and 1 here and fail going for 4th and 1 than kick this field goal and get the 3 points. Just to set the tone for the day. And it looked like
sometimes attitude is important. Sometimes attitude has to take priority, and not always.
But sometimes here to kick some ass today, Larry. That's what it is.
A little Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is, we all have a little Dan Campbell in us, a little Captain Morgan's in us. It was good to see Shanahan. You're right. It's the head coach sets a tone, and going for it there. I'll say this, just. Granted, we're behind 2.5 inches of glass, so it's hard to get a real good feel for the audience. But there was a lot of moaning and groaning as they were lining up for the field goal. And then there was a totally different vibe when they decided to, no, we're not going to go for the field goal. We're going to go for it. So every now and then, especially against an opponent that you have control over, you got to show some aggressiveness and go.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
There's something to that. There really, really is. And look, a little bit later on in that first half, Shanahan is looking at another one of those moments. Do I stay aggressive, try to pick up another first down and get into the end zone, or do I take the field goal right here? He took the field goal, and I thought that was the right choice because now you're playing like a numbers game and a possession game. And based on what I've seen, the Chicago Bears are not going to put 4 or 5 good possessions together coming out of halftime. They did have a good opening drive. Give Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams and the Bears credit for figuring enough out at halftime to have a respectable opening drive. They go for 2, that fails, and then they just stay behind, the rhythm that they needed to get back into the game all day. I really like the fact that clearly what George Kittle had said in his, it wasn't him yelling at Shanahan, but when asked why he wasn't more involved in the offense, Kittle gave you the shrug emoji saying, look, man, I'm just the tight end. You got to ask somebody else that question, but you should probably throw me the ball. And they did. And it was Kittle's best day of the entire season. 151 yards, 6 catches. Just every time he touched the ball, it was a chunk play. And it did. It looked like the 49ers for the first time in a long time. Now, what does that get you? What does that get you? Absolutely nothing. If in 72 hours from now, you're on the field Thursday losing to the Rams, then what happened against the Bears was totally meaningless and we can dismiss it. And Chicago was a bad team. Fine. But if they come out on Thursday night and they look good against the Rams team, who just officially gave it the office to beat the Buffalo Bills, the Rams are probably coming in here just a little like, wow, we can't do much more than that. We got to do it again now in 4 days. So they beat the Rams on Thursday night. Now you're going to Miami. You've won 2 in a row. That sounds like about as winnable an East Coast road trip as you could have. And that sets up a real game against the Lions where everyone starts to remeasure themselves. Now, what does this mean to the playoffs? Well, that depends on what Seattle does over the next couple of weeks. The Niners are no longer in control of their own destiny. But if they keep playing that football game for the rest of this football season, something stupid like backing into the playoffs could actually happen to them.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I hate people who say this, but so forgive me, audience, for saying this. But I really do believe this. Nobody wants any part of this Niner team if they could get to the playoffs. They've got Kyle Shanahan. They've got Brock Purdy. They will have Dre Greenlaw back and rested. That's what I'm excited about Thursday night. And they will have a team that played in the Super Bowl and has tons of experience. And guess what Green Bay doesn't have? And guess what Detroit doesn't have? And guess what many of these teams don't have? They don't really have playoff experience. So nobody wants the Niners if they get there. It's still a long shot that they'll get there. They got to get it done Thursday night, or yesterday means nothing. I think they realize that. Of all the pressers and all the stuff that was said in the postgame, the last guy who spoke was George Kittle. And the thing that he said that just really resonated with me was that, he's like, we haven't played with that sense of desperation. And we talked about it last night in the team meeting, and we talked about it in the pregame today. We haven't played on the edge. We haven't played with that fear. We haven't played with that desperation. And it's like, God, it's unbelievable that it might take the ending of your season and the ending of your playoff hopes for them to wake up. But they played yesterday with their hair on fire. They played fast and physical and on the edge. And that's what it's going to take. I mean, they didn't just get a win yesterday. They got a recipe for how to replicate those wins down the stretch. Now, can they do it? How much of yesterday was the Bears? I mean, we're going to ask that question. The same question I'm going to ask right here is the same question everybody's going to ask today. How much of yesterday was the Niners? How much of yesterday was the Bears? It's hard to say. It was 319 yards to what? Four. Yeah, 4 yards of total offense in the first half. 319 to 4. So that was an unbelievable first half. And the 24 points the Niners scored in the first half, just for reference, they had scored 24 or more in a game just once since week 6. So this was an uncharacteristic performance. But can you carry it over into the next game? And then I'm really excited about this next one because the Niners have never had a Dre Greenlaw fully rested and ready in mid-December. And that's what they have right now. Now, they've missed him to this point, and God knows they've missed him. But if he does step on the field and is anything close to the Dre Greenlaw that we have come to know and love, man, this 49er defense is going to be better on Thursday night, and he could lift the whole thing up by himself.
Well, I mean,
that to me is exciting.
I love your enthusiasm, but I'm going to give you the same advice that you gave me earlier this year when Christian McCaffrey was coming back. Don't expect too much too fast. Asking Dre Greenlaw to come out here and be Lawrence Taylor in his first game back from an ACL injury, having not played the entire year. I don't care how much you're ramping up. You're not playing NFL football. It's just, I mean, it would be awesome. Yeah, if he puts on Superman's cape and everything is awesome, yes, then I'll say it all happened. But I don't think we can expect that to happen. What you can expect to happen, what I hope you can start expecting, is Malik Collins to play the type of game that he played yesterday again, for Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos to become real presences on a football field. That is I think more likely going to happen. Talanoa Hufanga helping stabilize out a secondary. Diamador Lenore continuing to embrace his new leadership role on this team. Like you said, he addressed the team with Purdy just the night before. It is a little concerning that they had to see the fire coming at them down the hallway for them to pull the fire alarm. Like, why did Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason have to football equivalent of die in order for Isaac Guerendo to live? Like, it's that's a little disappointing.
That's frustrating as hell, to be completely honest.
I don't care how we got here, because here you are. And what you need to do from here on out, I think, is clearly define a moment in a football season that's lacked a lot of definitive moments. The Niners now know exactly what they need to do. And like you said, the reason why no one would want to play them in the postseason is all of that experience. Now, I think they might have leaned on all that experience a little bit too much themselves. And that explains some of the laissez-faire, undetailed, sloppy, penalty-ridden, undisciplined football. Like everything that we think kicked in yesterday. It's too bad it didn't kick in before. It would have been great if it had kicked in before. All of that playoff experience didn't amount to a hill of beans for them. But it ain't over yet. Again, it ain't over yet. And I don't care when the fighter gets up off the canvas, as long as it's enough to keep staying in the fight. And yesterday they stayed in the fight. I don't know if they're going to the
just keep playing that way. Just keep playing on the edge.
Keep doing that. And here's the deal. Yeah, the Bears are bad. Yeah, the Bears are up and coming. Yeah, the Bears are going through a coaching change. Yeah, the Bears got a rookie quarterback, and they got a million problems and all that stuff. Let me just ask you this, Larry. Is the Chicago Bears team that Kyle Shanahan played yesterday the worst team in the NFL all year? I don't think so,
No.
Right? Well, the 319 total yards of offense in the first half was the most by any NFL team over any other NFL team all year long. So it's still there. On days when the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and Brock, who was on one, Brock was on one from the coin toss to the press conference.
And Kyle was too.
Yes.
I thought Kyle was on one too, Damon, because if you go back and look at some of those red zone plays, the red zone offensive calls were way, way, way more, do I dare say it, Ben Johnson-esque.
No.
And when I say that, what I mean is when the Niners converted 5 of their 6 red zone opportunities, there was a lot of east-west on the first touchdown to Juwan. Basically it was just Juwan lined up on the offensive right side, and he just runs kind of a little cross or across the formation in the end zone. But all the pre-snap eye candy was going the other way. And so you had the flow going this way, and you had Juwan sprinting that way, and you just had Purdy lead him, and it was either going out of bounds. It was a very safe pass. It was going out of bounds, or Juwan was going to catch it. There was no other defender over there. It was a very well-schemed red zone misdirection pass play, and it worked famously. And we're watching Ben Johnson do that on the regular because Goff doesn't move all that well. So it's all got to be about the other weapons, a lot of east-west, a lot of crisscross right in front of your face. And then you got to decide right now, make a decision. You going with him? You going right? You going left? And you go right, we'll go left. You go left, we'll go right. I mean, Mahomes and Reed have made a career out of it. Shanahan, I thought, dusted off some really good red zone plays. So Brock played better. The line blocked better. I mean, I'll give Spencer Burford some credit. He didn't even know he was going to play. Couple plays in, Barch goes down with the high ankle sprain. I don't know. I haven't seen the grades, but I thought Burford played pretty clean. I don't think he had any penalties. The Niners dominated across the board, but I thought Burford played well. So, this is an exciting thing. I guess the first thing I want to know today from Shanahan is and we'll talk to him in the middle of the day. What's the extent of Guerendo's foot thing? Was there any word in the post game? I didn't catch anything on Guerendo in the post game that said how he stood in the locker room, Damon. He didn't look like a guy who was in tremendous pain, but I don't know what they said about it.
That, it isn't it's nothing severe. MRI on Monday. That's all I saw about it. So we'll learn a little bit more about it today. But how about this? If you got to go back to the locker room, let it be a walk back to the locker room. He walked back to the locker room. That's better than getting carted back to the locker room. So maybe there is a chance that he could go. The fact that it's a Thursday night game might hurt that. And look, if it's you, Patrick Taylor, it's you, Patrick Taylor. Let's go. I mean, that's it. Maybe you ask, Jacob Cowing to take a ball on an end around. I thought they had a good inside shuffle pass to Debo. It looked like a sort of a designed inside run. I believe it counted as a pass because Purdy sort of launched it forward there. I thought that was a clever way to get Debo some productive yardage coming from behind the line of scrimmage. Kyle's going to need to be clever again against a Rams team that is a lot more familiar with what he does than Thomas Brown coaching his first ever game for the Chicago Bears. So it won't be easy. It won't be easy, but everything seems to get easier when you record 7 sacks. Right? I mean, I don't pretend to be a football analyst. Actually, I do on YouTube. 7 sacks. You're going to want that as often as you can possibly get it. I recommend it highly. I don't know what got into Matos and Leonard Floyd yesterday, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come, not a flash in the pan because the Bears are that bad. And if that is what's happening, we still got ourselves a pretty interesting 5-game football season in front of us that could go in one of 2 directions. So good. Look at it this way. We've been dealing with a lot of crap this year. It was nice to enjoy a football game. When's the last time you enjoyed a Niner game, Larry? Seriously, like sat back, watched it, enjoyed it. That was good. We needed that one. Everyone was getting a little testy.
The playoffs last year, the Detroit game, even those games were hard. Probably really enjoyed a game. I'd probably say Philly from last year. That was an incredible game. I'll say this about Yetur Gross-Matos, and who knows? Was it a great game? Was it his bust-out performance in a defense that's ideally suited for him? I don't know. But Damon, he had 3 sacks yesterday. His career high in any one season, and this is his 5th year in the league, is 4.5. He's never had more than 4.5 sacks in a season, and he's had 3 sacks in yesterday's game. So maybe, and he got hurt early on. But this guy's big and long and physical. We're talking about 6'5", 6'6", good 265, 270. In a lot of ways, he's the physical blueprint of what you're looking for in a defensive end. They've always loved this kid, coming out of Penn State. The scouts have always loved him. He was a 2nd-round pick. He's got a great personal story and everything, but he is a guy that John Lynch was really excited about getting because they felt like they were getting a player on the come and a player that could fit in this wide 9. We didn't really see it early. Then he got hurt. Man, if Yetur Gross-Matos could dial up a hot month right now, and the one thing about Leonard Floyd that we know is that Leonard Floyd is going to go, he's going to get 10 sacks. Leonard Floyd's going to get his 10 sacks. That's what he does every year. He gets 10 sacks. So he's going to get 10 sacks. So Leonard Floyd is going to really ball out in the second half of the year and is playing great. He's got like 5 sacks in the last couple of games. And then if you can do this while getting Bosa the rest that he needs, Sam Aquinu was really strong yesterday. He had 3 tackles. He batted down on a pass or 2. He made some nice plays. If they could just get some push up front from some non-Bosa defensive linemen, man, that would sure help because, Nick's awesome, but, it's like he was literally carrying the load himself at times earlier, and you just can't do that. Well, so they need these other guys.
I wonder almost if, not that guys are lazy. There's nobody lazy out there, right? But if they don't sort of depend on him, and just think, all right, well, if I don't get there, Bosa's going to get there. And I don't want to say that Nick Bosa is addition by subtraction because they can't be a better defensive line. But I think like everyone it's an empty phrase. What does it mean? They stepped up. Stepped up to what? Stepped up to who? What do you mean they stepped up? Well, they did. They filled the absence of the most important player in their group. And they did it with production. And The 49ers have painted themselves in that you basically have to now play the equivalent of 5 perfect football games in a row where you are doing as much to limit your own mistakes as humanly possible. Step 1 taken against an inferior, opponent. As it was saw one guy up here, you beat a sub 400 team. Hurrah. I get it. But all I can tell you is that this football season hasn't provided many, hey, that was pretty good. Let's look at that and just judge it for what it is, not try to measure it against everything else that's happening in the NFL. And the 49ers just need to handle their own business, their own goddamn business. And they handled their business yesterday, and they did it in their depth chart, which is a sign of good things to come. I was reading a little from Tim Kawakami saying that, yesterday was just a harbinger of how it's time to infuse more of the young players and youth into this team while remaining competitive. And yesterday was the example of that. By the way, Ramon Duze had a pretty good game, right?
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Top 10 pick.
Yeah. Thought he, again, people have been telling me, forget what you're watching. You know, he's better than you think. He's better than you think. Courtney Cronin was on saying he's better than you think. He's the season he's having. He's just, there's so many moving parts in Chicago. It's all fakakta. He would be better in a better situation. Well, yesterday his talent carried the day. He was pretty damn good, but man, just Kittle keeps playing
in the second half. I think he might have been shut out in the first half. Let me see. I'm not sure if Rome did anything in the first half. The Bears in the first half, Caleb was 6 of 9 for 27 yards.
No one did anything in the first half.
Yeah, Odunze nothing in the first half. Swift had 4 carries for 7 yards. DJ Moore had 3 catches for 16 yards. The Bears were averaging 1.8 per carry in the first half. 0 for 5 on third down conversions. Yeah. I mean, you know, the Bears had a bad day, but you know, it's interesting. They had looked really good a couple times. I mean, and so it wasn't like, you know, I mean, it's easy to look at that game and be like, yeah, the Bears are trash. Well, are the Bears trash, or did the Niners just shut them down early? Because they just totally shut down the Bears offense early. The Niners defense brought it. Winters was flying around. If you go look at that first half box, if you go through this game, piece by piece, what you're going to find is the Niners scored a touchdown, and then the Bears went 3 and out, and then the Niners were forced to punt, but the Bears, the Niners stopped the Bears again. Then the Niners scored another touchdown on the Guerendo, and then Leonard Floyd had the huge sack on 3rd and 7, and Aquinu had the big pass deflection on 2nd and 7. That ruined Chicago's next drive. Then the Niners score another touchdown, Purdy to Jennings, and on the next drive, Malik Collins on 3rd and 5 sacks Williams, -12 on 12-yard loss on 3rd and 5. And then the Niners scored another time. They scored. Jake Moody scores a field goal. Now they're up 24-0. Bears get it back, gets to 3rd and 2. Leonard Floyd sacks Williams. So almost every single time the Bears had the ball in the first half, Floyd ruined a series. Collins ruined a series. Floyd and Aquinu ruined a series. I mean, the Niners individually stepped up with big plays on 3rd down and got off the field. So, I mean, it was a total team effort. It was the best special teams effort of the year. It was the best offensive effort of the year, all things considered. You had no Ayuk, you had no CMC. I mean, that's another one too. It's like, I want to hear more about Brock Purdy is all about his guys, on FS1 when he didn't have CMC, he didn't have Ayuk. Debo was just a total bit player yesterday. You don't have a lot of speed at wide receiver. Your number 1 draft choice, Ricky Pearsall, is not producing. Jacob Cowing got no catches. And still, they found a way. I mean, Brock Purdy found a way to complete 80% of his passes, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Once again, it holds true. When Brock doesn't turn it over, the Niners win individually. When he personally doesn't turn it over, the 49ers win. And when he turns it over, they don't. So, I mean, I know that's not as easy. It's not.
Now,
you got to play the game. You got to put the ball in harm's way. You can't just hold the ball. You got to throw it. You got to take chances. But I'm just saying.
There were a couple of moments where he had some balls batted. I thought a couple of that could have been a pick. That looked like it might have been a pick. Niners got a little lucky a few times in that game too. But as we said on Friday, I really thought it was just going to come down to 3rd down. Staying on the field and getting off the field on 3rd down. And it was a day where both of those things happened in the right direction for Kyle Shanahan and company. Look, hit like and subscribe. It is really good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. We are brought to you by our good friends at Sam's Chowder House. Larry, we have lobster rolls of victory to give away today. I always volunteer my lobster roll first. Today, you get the number 1 pick. Who gets there she is. Who gets your lobster roll after yesterday's 49ers game?
I got a very special one to give away this week, Damon. I'm going to give it to George Kittle. Okay. Not only is George Kittle a tremendous player. He really is a tremendous player. Get
He's
this.
It's all of
In the absolutely, maybe the greatest Niner tight end of all time. And maybe underutilized, to be completely honest, this year. He's got 56 catches and 8 touchdowns and 800 yards, but he might be a little bit underutilized. But George Kittle in the last month has been targeted 18 times and has 16 catches. There's only been 2 passes in the last month that have gone in his direction that he did not corral. So, I mean, this guy is playing at a very, very high level, but that's not why he's getting my lobster roll. George Kittle is a special, special human being. I got a letter this week from the Blevins family, whose son Lane Blevins, this guy Larry Blevins, sent me a note. And they're regular watchers of Wake Up. They're regular supporters of both of our channels. And they're big 49er fans. And sadly, Larry Blevins had to, reveal that his son Lane has had cancer. And they contacted George and said, hey, we're big fans. And George is unbelievable. He sent Lane Blevins a ton of autographed merchandise, and then that could be done by anybody theoretically, but George goes that extra step, Damon. He cut this kid a whole video, talking to him, encouraging him, trying to uplift him. This is where sports is a great part of society. This is where I'm really proud to sit here and say that I'm associated with the Niners, with Kittle, and with sports overall because, man, I mean, kids with cancer, I mean, it's just life's not fair. And Larry Blevins sent me this note. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to say, hey, Larry, I know you go in the locker room. I know you talk to George. Could you say thank you to George on behalf of Lane and the entire Blevins family? So I've haven't been able to corral George yet because he was getting a massage Friday. So, Larry and Lane and the Blevin family, I've yet to actually contact George, but I will this week when there's a quiet moment, and I'll let him know that you're very thankful. But thank you to George, for just being himself, right? Just being a dude and being a cool dude and, responding to a young fan by saying, hey man, here's an autographed glove and here's an autographed, this and autograph that. But it's really the personalized video and taking the time to say, hey, you know what? I'm pretty blessed. And, life has dealt you a tough blow, but keep fighting. And, and we're thinking of you and you're in our thoughts and prayers. Just, this is what I love about it. So, thank you to George. Thank you to Larry Blevins, by the way, who reached out to me. And our thoughts and prayers are with Lane, and hopefully he fights the good fight and wins it. And I just wanted to share that because George is a special guy, and these are the kinds of things that always stay private. That's another thing. And a lot of the Niners do these things all the time, and it stays private. The only reason we're even finding out about this is not because of the Niners or not because of George. It's because Larry Blevins sent me a long note on Facebook Messenger. So I just wanted to say, Larry, I will get that message to George, and our thoughts and prayers go to Lane and you.
Yeah, well, to little Lane, I want to talk to you first, young man. Fight the good fight. You are an inspiration. You really are, Lane. So I wish you the very best. We're all praying for you and a speedy recovery. And I've been around, some charity, and I know that very sad news can deliver inspiring and promising things. So I hope that all happens for you, young man. I really do. To George Kittle, we always knew you were a good guy. The good guy test was passed a long time ago. The great tight end test has been passed time and time again. But that is what really separates, boys from men. Men know how to inspire children and do right by them and protect them and care for them. And that's a wonderful and beautiful thing, to say the least. So good on you, George Kittle. That's really, really wonderful. I think, Larry, we're lucky that we live in an area that is populated with athletes that, given the opportunity to do something right like this, would take that opportunity. You and I have heard stories behind the scenes of this happening, around the Sharks, the Warriors, the Giants, the 49ers, the Raiders when they were here. They would do these things often, again, for very little fanfare and publicity. And when it really does matter, and when you see what it does for a family to have an athlete reach out to their child, it's incredibly powerful and wonderful and inspiring. So cheers to George. 2 lobster rolls for George, and a lobster roll for Lane, and a lobster roll for the entire Blevins family, indeed. And a lobster roll to all the doctors who are hopefully working on getting Lane right again, for sure. That's wonderful. That's really, really good stuff. That's what I want to hear around the holidays. That's what I want to hear.
The Niners do not just the Niners. I mean, all these teams do tons in the community, and that's really cool. Every one of these sports teams spends money and lifts up our community. So I know there are people that are kind of anti-jock and anti-sports, but you really shouldn't be, because sports is a vehicle, has created so much revenue to fight so many of the shortfalls that we have budgetary wise for so many things that are important, that it really, it can't be, let's just say this: there's no other aspect of society. I don't see, I'm sure there are rich people that donate to worthy causes all the time. But as far as athletes using their platform to connect with the masses, to really tap into, the population and all the people that are out there that this touches. And these athletes do so many different things with animals around the holidays, and these community outreach programs that every team has are really, really strong. But way to go, George. And thank you, Larry Blevins, for sharing that and allowing me to share your story publicly. The other lobster roll I want to give. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, please give another one.
I was just going to say
lobster roll.
I got to give one up to Spencer Burford. I mean, this guy played a lot early and hasn't played a lot this year. And he's a great guy. He's a really, really good prospect. I know there are people like Burford's ass. No, dude, Burford's a good prospect. It's just a really tough job, and it takes some coaching. He went to the University of Texas at San Antonio, and when he was there, he played tackle. Well, now he's transitioning to guard in the NFL, and it's just a different deal. Things happen really, really, really fast at guard because you're so close to the football. You're right there in the middle of the action. So a lot of times, if you don't have the experience, you could have the perfect prototype body, but it takes a while to kind of get with it. I think Burford is going to play a number of years in the NFL, and it was good to see him step in there at left guard, and a spot that he did not play. I don't even know. He played right tackle at University of Texas San Antonio. He played right guard for the Niners. To ask him to just jump in there at left guard with no notice, I thought he played really, really well. I didn't see any missed assignments. I didn't see anybody, going right by him. And the Bears have Gervon Dexter up front and some decent defensive linemen. So shout out for sure to Spence Burford.
Yeah, you want to know how I know Spencer Burford's going to be good at this? Because Trent Williams told us he would be. Trent Williams is not here to bullshit anybody or prop up anyone for the sake of a good column or a happy story about anybody. He said this young man can play. He's going to have to figure things out, but he can play. And I agree. I thought at times Spencer Burford might have been the best offensive lineman that the 49ers had last year. And he did regress. It didn't quite, he didn't take that leap forward I really was hoping he would take this year. And then Dominic Pooney took his job. But he stayed dialed in. Like you said, he played out of position and he played well. Larry, I'm giving my lobster roll to someone else on this offensive line too. Jaylen Moore. It would be easy to give this a lobster roll to Guerendo or Purdy yesterday, but Jaylen Moore, I mean, have we even used Trent Williams' name in a sure wish he was playing instead of Jaylen Moore type of fashion? Jaylen Moore has played so well stepping in for Trent Williams that you haven't even noticed that Trent Williams is not playing. And Trent Williams is one of the easiest guy to notice. This guy's not playing today. There isn't all of football. That's how good he is. Jaylen Moore is duplicating, and in some cases, maybe in this run game, even exceeding what Trent Williams has been doing this year. So Jaylen Moore gets my lobster roll. I thought he did a remarkable job. One of the best days for this team's offensive line. And obviously the 49ers offense was just, functioning yesterday behind it. And that ball was coming out quick. And Larry, we got to get to Brock Purdy here, right? Because I know.
Well, I was just going to piggyback your Jaylen Moore.
Okay.
Darrell Taylor, no sacks. Montez Sweat, no sacks. Those guys are good. Darrell Taylor can fly off the edge. Montez Sweat is one of my favorite edge rushers in the entire league. They pitched a shutout. And I'll say this too about Jaylen Moore. You know how some people it's like are always in a bad mood and other people are always in a good. This guy's just an absolute delight to talk to. I mean, he's in the corner of the locker room, down there by Nick Bosa in the far corner. But I mean, he's just, you go up to him and start talking to him about whatever, and he's just the best, just absolutely the best. He's in a great mood. He's got a great perspective on, he's really, really competent and really, really talented and knows that he's got a good future in the NFL, but he doesn't play right now. He backs up, but doesn't let it get to him. It's like he's ready to roll. He's ready to go. And then when he got his opportunity, he there's no fear. There's no like, oh man, I got this guy this weekend. He's fully capable. He knows the offense. He's been in it for a while. He's well coached by Forster. They're lucky to have this guy. I mean, he could start. He could start. And some people have argued he maybe should start for McKivitz, but Jaylen Moore is really, really solid.
From a value and what they're paying him standpoint, I know that, McKivitz is not the apple of a lot of Niners fans' eyes. He's given them good value for what they're paying him. The only player who is doing more from a value standpoint, there's only two guys. Obviously, Brock Purdy is the NFL's leader in, return on investment, followed by Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings is being paid peanuts for the level of production that he's been given the 49ers this year. And you want to talk about a team that would be dead in the water without a player. Where would the 49ers be without Juwan Jennings this season? Oh my God. He's been so important to everything that they've done. But if we can get back to Purdy, because I know on Friday, it seemed like on Friday, you were shining a less than exemplary light on where Brock Purdy is. And he's had the type of year where just questioning what the real worth is and all this stuff. And while acknowledging the Niners can't do better but for him right now. So at no point in time are you saying, like, get rid of the guy. But, where is he? Where is he in the hierarchy? And how do you pay him? And how do you line him up behind Dak and Lawrence and all these extensions? And where's the real value? Blah, 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 blah. Well, not that he's about to go to arbitration. But if you are Brock Purdy's agent and you're sitting down with Parag Marathe, here are your 3 bullet points that you're going to tell Parag before he comes with his opening price point. You're going to say, my guy, Brock Purdy, has now registered 10 career games with a passer rating of 130 or higher, which is only the most such games by a quarterback in his first 3 seasons in NFL history. Okay? Do we have your attention now? So Brock Purdy has played so exemplary over the course of 10 games in his first 3 seasons that there's no other quarterback that has ever measured up even to what Brock is doing right now. So again, this is one of those, what are you going to believe? Your own eyes that tell you he's a little bit small, doesn't have the best arm in the world, or are you going to go and look at the numbers that'll tell you that over his first 3 seasons, he has topped out in a way that no other quarterback has ever. With 2 passing touchdowns and a rating of 145.4, Purdy registered now his 14th game with 2 or more passing touchdowns and a passer rating of 115 or higher. All that does is tie him with Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson for the most such games by any player in NFL history in their first 3 seasons. What more do you want than that? What more do you want than that? He's as good as the best quarterback in all of football is right now from a historical start standpoint. And Russell Wilson, by the way, is now back on a Hall of Fame track with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we're not done. We're not done here, because the third and final thing that I would like to put on the table for you, Parag, is you're wondering what to pay my guy, Brock Purdy. Purdy's passer rating of 145.5 marks his 13th career game with a passer rating of 120 or higher. That means just him and Russell Wilson have done that over their first 3 seasons in NFL history. So when Brock is on it, like, anybody can have a bad day, right? But what are you on your best day? Brock is so good on his best day, he's like off the spectrum of quarterback excellence measurement. All quarterbacks have bad days. How good are you when things are going right? And yesterday, Brock Purdy, what was he, 20 at 25 for whatever his season high passing yards? He was phenomenal yesterday. You get that, Brock, for the next 5 weeks, the 49ers are going to the fucking playoffs. Watch.
I mean, I like that. He's a great leader. He's an incredible face of the franchise. He spoke up at the team meeting, I guess, Saturday night, and was like, "Guys, let's do this."
What do you think?
My whole point is just that
he's Brock Purdy rah press talk sounds like. Does he get all fired up? Does he swear?
I think he's the kind of guy that would probably be like, you know what, I need to be better, and I'm going to be better, and I challenge each one of us to do the same. You know what I mean? I mean, it would be something where he'd point the finger at himself first. But he's a true, authentic leader, and he's a great athlete. And you know, the bottom line is this: yes, the numbers show that you know, if you're usually, you got to be a Hall of Famer to win a Super Bowl. Usually, over the last 20 years or so, you know, basically there are 2 or 3 exceptions. Outside of it, it's a lot of the same guys winning over and over and over again, and they're all future Hall of Famers. And you could argue, well, they've won, so they're Hall of Famers, or they're Hall of Famers, so they win. But either way, they're Hall of Famers. All I would say is that Brock Purdy is not a Hall of Famer, but Brock Purdy is a very good NFL quarterback. Brock Purdy's not a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, but Brock Purdy is a top 10 NFL quarterback. So are you going to get, you know, these people that were like, get rid of your top 10 NFL quarterback because he's not a Hall of Famer? That makes no sense. And then the other, you know, thing is like, well, you know, you can't extend Brock now because you need to know more. Okay, but then you can't pay Brock Purdy X because he's not worth it. Well, if you're gonna get a deal, you probably got to pay him in one of his down cycles, or at least, you know, with that in mind, to get a good deal. To me, he's not the perfect player, but he's the best that they have. He was better than Trey Lance. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's better than most quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, is he better than all of them? No. But he's better than probably 20 of them. I mean, probably 20 to 25 of them. I would say Brock Purdy is a top 10 NFL quarterback, and I won't in any way, like, you know, think twice about it. I won't be like, I'm not really sure. No. He is absolutely a top 10 NFL quarterback.
Well, the things that you would have supporting your argument are the statistical starts to his career and an actual physical, tangible win-loss record on the field. So you'd have all sorts of math backing up your argument that he's a top 10 quarterback.
Well, and then anybody who went to the game yesterday knows that last year he had Ayuk as his number one weapon, and Christian McCaffrey is the reigning offensive player of the year. He didn't have those guys yesterday. And yet he still is making it happen with Juwan Jennings and Isaac Guerendo. And, you know, so he's getting it done. My whole thing would be, look at who is Brock Purdy and try to come up with a comp, and then pay him based on that comp. And to me, there are a couple comps out there that are absolutely fair. One of them is Jalen Hurts. Brock Purdy is Jalen Hurts. They're the same guy. They have a lot of the same characteristics. Jalen Hurts made $55 million. That's what Brock should get. And, you know, if you don't like that comp, then I would say another comp would be Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. I think Brock's a little bit better than Tua. Tua's making, I think, $51 million a year. So where's Brock supposed to be paid? between 50 and 55 a year. Kev thinks he's going to make 60 a year. I think that I would like to avoid that if possible, and try to convince Brock to take, more like 50, just because for the good of the team and building around him. But I mean, the bottom line is, all these people who are acting like if you pay Brock Purdy $50 million, it's going to be the ruination of the 49ers. The Eagles are paying Hurts that money, and they have a deep and talented roster. I mean, it can be done. Now, is it make it hard? Yeah. You're going to have to really hit. You're going to have to hit in the draft, and then simultaneously you're going to have to hit in free agency. And the Niners have a number of needs right now that they need to rebuild their roster around Brock. But you need stability at quarterback. And Brock is not some, he didn't win a contest. This guy's not some one-year wonder. This guy's a proven top 10 NFL quarterback who's done it in the playoffs. He's done it while hurt. He's done it on the road. He's done it, he played straight up against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. The guy is the guy. He may not be a Hall of Famer, but he's a top 10 NFL quarterback. And you show me the NFL team that runs away from a top 10 NFL quarterback in the name of, well, he's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, come on. Nobody does that.
Look, you got to pay market price for any quarterback who is good enough to maintain his job through injury. In other words, you're the starting quarterback. You got hurt, and now you're coming back, and it's definitely going to be your job the very first day you're healthy again. That's an NFL starting quarterback. Now, whether you like that guy or he's winning games or not, I don't know. But the definition of NFL starting quarterback is he is not going to just be replaced by the next dude we see. That's an NFL starting quarterback. And Brock is just not going to be replaced by Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs or anything like that. The next dude we see. So he is. What I also think Brock is the type of guy who is not about to use his contract to get caught up in a I'm better than you measuring contest. I don't think Brock is going to be the type of guy who needs to wear the label of highest paid annual average value or greatest signing bonus or most of anything. I don't think Brock is wired like that at all. What I would do, and remember this, because this is the truth, the cheapest time to get out of a good or get into a good investment or bad or get out of a bad investment is today. When everyone's saying, well, why rush to extend Brock? Because you can get a better deal on him with an early extension by then letting him play out and then really have the open market come to bear on him. So getting him signed to an extension right now, and Larry, I threw this out to you on Friday. I'm going to do it again. You want to keep it around 50. Brock, can we even bring you in a little under 50? Here's what we're going to do. $48 million over 5, whole thing guaranteed. Whole thing guaranteed.
That would have set the record for guaranteed dollars, I think, probably.
It would 240 guaranteed million. That's got to be the neighborhood that Deshaun's contract is sort of in, right? I got to look at the particulars. But here's the thing. I wouldn't mind guaranteeing all that money to Brock Purdy. Because Brock Purdy guarantees the 49ers, I think, a steady, disciplined hand at the most position in North American sports. Most important position there is. Brock is not going to screw it up. He is not going to be caught at the Westin St. Francis going through a sequence of women that he is having, that he's molesting while he's getting massages. There's just no way that he's going to do that. I would be confident giving Brock Purdy guaranteed money that is a level of guaranteed money that other people get jealous of. How do you keep it down? How can you build the best team around him? Just $48 million over 5 years. Whole damn thing is yours. Who says no to that? Who would say no to a guaranteed $240 million to stay in a really good situation?
Not only that, I'd go one step beyond that. I would tell Brock, look, because of the situation with the money, we can't really have backups behind you that are anything but rookies and developmental kids. And we just want you to know that we're going to pay you. We believe in you. But we also know the history of the quarterback position is that, it oftentimes requires a Hall of Fame player. So we're going to keep drafting guys. We're going to keep drafting guys that theoretically could be your replacement. And we want you to bring them along. We're going to pay you all this money. We're going to make you the guy. We're going to guarantee every penny. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to build everything around you. But we're also going to keep drafting quarterbacks, and we're with the hope that one of them is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback that someday replaces you. And we need you to not fight that, but to embrace that and to show those guys the way, like Alex Smith showed the way to Patrick Mahomes. You're our Alex Smith. We're going to try, but except we don't have Patrick Mahomes yet, and we're going to look for one, but we want you to bring him along, and we want you to run the show. I mean, that might be a hard thing for him to hear at 24, right?
Well, I mean, I don't even
35.
know if you need to say that as much as just, of course, that's the game plan that's always in effect. You know, you always got to be looking for what's next, because your last day on a football field could be the next practice, much less the next game. You know, this is a sport that can be taken from you instantly. So I think that there's
I just need him to have the right approach and right attitude about it. Because, like, I don't want him to be like, hey, man, you paid me, and now I'm staring at Riley Leonard. Now I'm staring at Haynes King. Now I'm staring at, Tyler Van Dyke or something. What am I doing here? Well, no, this is the deal. This is the deal. We can't afford Brandon Allen. We can't afford Josh Dobbs.
Kirk Cousins was totally caught off guard by what the Atlanta Falcons did in the draft. You know, they give him all that money in the draft Penix, and he's like, why? Come on, what are you doing?
Right. And I'm sure that's frosty. I'm sure that's a little bit frosty. And Brock's a total pro, but have you noticed that the only time Brock Purdy ever looks pissed or unhappy is at the end of games when he's standing on the sideline watching somebody else finish it. He doesn't want to be, he wants to be on the field. And he understands that, any minute he's not on the field, somebody could take his job. He's very competitive. But all I would say to him is, look, we can't afford veteran backups. We need you to not just lead the team and win games. We need you to lead the team, win games, and in school these young quarterbacks we're going to have behind you. They're going to be behind you, and the odds are none of them are going to beat you out. But theoretically, you could be, tutoring some guy who could replace you someday. But I want you to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And this money and this guarantee, I mean, he'll understand. I mean,
I don't think it's a hard sell to a reasonable young man.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a hard sell to Purdy at all.
As long as you're paying him. As long as you're not saying, hey, give me some screaming deal and then prepare the future. We're going to pay you big time, and a guy like that, I would say, how about just 3 years, 150 straight cash homie, 3 years, 150. And then we'll talk at the end of 3 years, 3 years, 150, every penny guaranteed.
Right. Guy who's not even making $1 million a year now gets a guaranteed $50 million a year
for 3 years. I mean, you're basically, not only that, I mean, Pops is running a hot tub business. I mean, his dad was a pro athlete, but he was a pro athlete that didn't make it in baseball and had to start his own business. And it sounds like, it hasn't always been easy. And I'm sure if you're selling hot tubs, that's not exactly, I'm not saying that you're poor, but you're not, it's not like you've got the world by the horns. I mean, he's going to be able to help out his family here pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much, help they necessarily need, but guaranteed $50 million, the amount of people that you can help, that list gets very, very long. And we saw Purdy yesterday. I mean, he wears his religion right on his sleeve there. He had, his cleats were for Jesus Catholic Charities that he was wearing yesterday. He is a Boy Scout, and he is, I believe, getting better in a system that he's more familiar with. I think that this year was a little bit of a crucible for him, and he had to forget a few things. He had to relearn a few things along the way. I think he tried a few things out to varying degrees of success this season. And yesterday, he was just in his zone. He was back to what he did, what he does the best for Kyle Shanahan, efficiently making decisions with the football that keep it, high reward, low risk. And I just thought it was an excellent day for Brock. And again, if I'm the 49ers, reinvesting in that guy would be no hard choice at all. I think he's just an A-plus investment as a player, as a person, and as someone who will also help give the 49ers the leverage they need to keep the talented team around him that they're going to need to find the success that he's enjoyed so far in his young career. And I think he gets it. I just think they're not going to have to sit down and sell him on the religion that you and I are preaching every day here, Larry. I think Brock knows. I think he knows about it better than we do.
West Z says, damn, Larry's pocket watching the whole family. No, it's obvious when Brock has talked about the sacrifices that his parents have made for him that, it's like, these are not enormous. It's not like he grew up in some pocket of unbelievable wealth.
No, Brock Purdy is from Normalsville, USA. He's a normal person from a normal hometown.
Yeah, he's a they're working class people, and that's great. That's great. And you know what? And I'm not one of these people that gives a shit. I really don't. To me, it wouldn't change anything if he came from money or not. For some people, it's like, oh my God, if you came from money, you're evil. And if you didn't come from money, you're the greatest person of all time. No, that's not really the case. Okay. People can't, the same way people can't help their situations if they're bad, they can't help their situations if they're good. But to me, it's just that it's pretty obvious when you hear Brock talk that, there have been some lean financial times and there have been some financial struggles. And for him to get $150 million, after being Mr. Irrelevant and thought to have no career whatsoever, and to have that kind of, that kind of glory of God from God being, given to you. I mean, I'm sure, it's,
Larry,
it's life-changing.
There's a kid growing up in Atherton right now whose parents are loaded up on Bitcoin and have a $7.5 million mansion sitting on 3 acres in Atherton. And to that kid, $150 million looks good, much less the kid who's coming from Arizona and his dad owns a jacuzzi, chain. By the way, don't sleep on that. I don't know about jacuzzi retailer, but have you ever made that drive up to Sonoma and Napa and you're going up, what is that, 17 there? And you pass the Jacuzzi Winery. Have you ever seen that?
No.
There is a winery called the Jacuzzi Winery, which sounds like, geez, that's kind of like a goofy name. It's the actual family that invented the jacuzzi who made so much money that they bought a winery. So it's not named after a jacuzzi winery. It's the jacuzzi people that the jacuzzi was named after who owned that winery.
Who doesn't love a good jacuzzi? Who doesn't love a good winery? By the way, one thing there wasn't everything yesterday wasn't totally positive, but one thing on Purdy, I was looking up at where he ranks in all these different categories. He doesn't rank particularly high this year in hardly any categories as far as compared to, in the past. Yards per game, he's 13th. Touchdowns, he's 22nd. Interceptions, he's middle of the pack. QBR, he's 7th. So he's pretty good in QBR. Quarterback rating, he's 14th. He's ahead of Mahomes and a bunch of other really good players, but he's 14th. And completion percentage, he's 18th. So it's not like he is number one across the board in every category, but he's the best quarterback you got. And the idea that you wouldn't pay him and then would go down some other road trying to find some other quarterback just makes no sense at all. But at the same time, you want to get the best deal you possibly can on Brock. One thing that Brock couldn't do yesterday was he couldn't elevate Ricky Pearsall, and Ricky Pearsall continued to struggle. Kev just put this out on Twitter, so we'll share the screen right here. I'm not sure whose question this was, but here, maybe this might have been mine. I don't know. Let me see here. Here is Pearsall, or here's
Ricky
Purdy
got turned around. Pearsall. Is this where Ricky got turned around and he sort of falls down trying to catch a ball?
Let's see.
Okay.
Reflecting on that one misconnection with Ricky, it seemed like you guys were on a different page there.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna keep it a little bit skinnier up the field, and then he saw space, so he sort of cut across, and I just threw the ball early and sort of anticipated, and I missed him. I think his decision on going across the more middle of the field was a great decision. If I would have laid the ball right there for him, it would have been a touchdown. So something that he and I we talked about, and I told him, I was like, we just got to keep growing together and learning each other and seeing each other in and out of cuts. And but that's something that I missed on him. He executed his job.
What were you expecting on that?
Yeah,
one
so
miss-
the only thing I'll say about this is that Ricky has 42-inch vertical, and you would never have known it on this play because he just didn't show that kind of. He just got turned around. He couldn't get off the ground. These guys, so much of quarterback and receiver play is about the field, the reps that you put out on the field that make you the player, the combo that you are. They haven't had enough of those reps, though. It really looked in May at minicamp like they were absolutely ready to take off as a combo, and we didn't see it this summer. And then Ricky got shot. Now the season's gotten going. They haven't been able to connect. They're going to be at some point. Purdy to Pearsall, I think, is going to become very unstoppable on third downs, but it's not there yet. And the other thing is Ricky's radius is not the same radius that George has, that Debo or that Kittle has, or that JJ has, or really the guy who's got the huge radius is Ayuk. He doesn't have that kind of. He doesn't have those kind of long arms. He doesn't have that kind of radius.
I mean,
you got to put it more on him
either, right? He doesn't have short arms. Here's the thing.
He's not Ayuk. Ayuk's a 6'1" player who plays 6'5".
Right.
This guy's a 6'1" player that plays 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1" playing 5'11". Look, I'm going to, people want to be the first to declare future Hall of Famer, future current bust, and all this stuff. All I'm going to say about Ricky Pearsall is I'm going to benefit of the doubt him a little bit. And I'm not going to start really evaluating who he might be on this team or in the NFL until next year. This is such a weird year. I mean, it's such a weird year. We don't even consider what this young man has gone through mentally. Larry, have you ever been shot? I've never been shot. I'm guessing that stays with you for a little while. I don't know if your nights are full with the 8 hours of sleep that you need, if that doesn't echo out in your mind at all. I don't know what he's talked to, if he's gone to therapy at all, if he's working through it still, or maybe he's just a straight up OG gangsta and that shit is all behind him and he doesn't give a fuck. I don't know. But it definitely altered what was supposed to be the concept of a normal rookie season. So I'm going to benefit of the doubt him and just say, we'll start looking at you next year. And if you can do anything over the next 5 weeks to help this team reach the postseason, that would be great. But there's not a lot to be counting on week to week yet from him. But I think it's way too early to declare boomer bust on anybody. Again, he's played a handful of NFL games. Ricky Pearsall hasn't played 8 football games yet in this league. So it's not time to reach any conclusion on him.
No, but right now he's not getting anything done. He was out there. He was targeted twice. He caught one ball.
Lousy rookie year. We kind of think we know why.
The being shot thing is secondary. He's fully recovered from that. He's just not really in tune yet. He's running around. He's not getting anything done.
If he kept on running there, if he hadn't turned around to try to high point that ball, if he just kept on running underneath it, Purdy might have hit him.
Well, not only that, I kind of like him as a runner. I didn't realize he had some ability as a runner. I like his tempo. Once again, the one thing they're not focusing on is how do we get Ricky involved. He's not like a priority. You know what I mean? He's just one of their weapons. But without Ayuk and with Debo not being the player that he used to be, and they need Ricky and Cowing. They need Pearsall and Cowing both to contribute. And they're going to need both those guys to contribute down the road, down the stretch here, because they don't have a lot of speed, they don't have a lot of depth. And Ricky's going to run. If he's going to run, a full complement of routes and play a full complement of snaps, he's going to have to do more than one catch for 5 yards. This is your first round draft choice.
It's a victory Monday. Larry and I are both admittedly painting in positive colors today. I got to say this though. I don't even like Jacob Cowing on punt return.
I don't either. Who would?
He's falling over more than he's getting tackled. He just can't even keep his legs underneath him. Maybe it's time to say, Debo, you handle punts too. Seriously, Debo is not providing this team nearly with as much from scrimmage as he's been providing them in special teams play in the last couple of weeks. I would maybe ask Debo to go back and take punts too, because Cowing he can't stay upright. He doesn't look comfortable. He looks like a mistake is always about to happen. When a mistake doesn't happen, everyone goes, whew, thank God. It wasn't a bad punt return. But can he get involved from scrimmage in any way? Can this week Kyle install a single screen play for him to catch a ball and run behind some downfield blocking just a little? I mean, Jacob Cowing, it feels like he has fewer excuses to not be producing than Ricky Pearsall has, to be totally honest with you.
Well, I mean, to me, it's more about just getting Cowing on the field from scrimmage. He does separate down the field vertically as a receiver. And the other thing about him, it's like, he's a smallish guy, okay? If you use him as a downfield threat, you're fine. There's all kinds of small guys in this league who make plays down the field. But if you use him as a return man, now he could get popped by D linemen, linebackers. Now you're taking some big time hits, and now there's fumble possibilities and separating from the football and big hits. So I agree with you. I think they ought to make a trade right now. Trade Jacob Cowing, wide receiver, or return man, for Jacob Cowing, wide receiver, and trade Deebo Samuel, wide receiver, for Deebo Samuel, full-time return man.
And just tell Deebo on special teams, you got to lock in. Got to lock in, Deebo. Filthy cat.
You're going to be the guy. I mean, it's like, that's a big role. That's a big role. I mean, you got to trust and I would say, I would pitch it to both guys like, hey, look, I'm just trying to get you guys in position to succeed. Jacob, I want to take the big hit away from you and all the pressure of trying to read the entire field and make everybody miss. Let's take that away from you because you're having a hard time keeping your feet and you look really nervous and you're making me nervous. So let's take that away from you and give it to Deebo, who's very, very confident in those situations. And then let's take Jacob, though, and let's start utilizing Jacob in the pass game down the field in 3 wide receiver sets. And let's use him a lot. Let's use him. Let's run him. I mean, they're going to have to use Guerendo and Cowing because that's the speed that they have.
Yeah.
And you can't just ignore your fast guys. You have to put your speed out there.
Guerendo is a pass catcher. Let's get to a little bit more of that too. He looked Christian McCaffrey-ish at times yesterday. He truly did. One last thing here, though. Filthy Casual saying Cowing doesn't block well, a mortal sin in Kyle's book. I'll agree with you. And I'll also say that Kyle is in no position to be as picky as he used to be. Like you got to dance with the girl that you brung to homecoming. And this is the girl that Kyle's brought to homecoming with him. This is it. This is your team. The expectation of cannot play until it's perfect has not applied to anyone else. So it shouldn't be applying to him either. If you think you got to play in the young man, get it out of him. That's all I would say. Didn't
they used to have Marquise Goodwin here?
While you're waiting for perfect.
Didn't they used to have Marquise Goodwin here? Marquise Goodwin didn't block anybody. I mean, they've had burners. They've had smallish receivers. Are you telling me that Ronnie Bell's an awesome blocker? I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll give a good effort. But once again, Cowing needs to play because they need vertical speed, but he also looks really unsure as a punt returner. I think it's a good trade. I think use him from scrimmage a few plays and throw him the ball. Throw him the ball. I mean, here's the other thing. Once you start putting things on film, teams have to react. Once you have a running back like Guerendo with 4.3 speed, teams have to react. He only caught 2 balls, but he got 2 balls for 50 yards. So he's an explosive player, and Cowing is too. Use Cowing. Right now, you're being defended one way because you don't really have anybody that makes anybody worried about Brock Purdy throwing it over their head. If you put Cowing out there, they'll worry, and he's got better than average ball skills. So he's not just like some James Jett burner that can't catch. If you throw Jacob Cowing the ball down the field, he will catch it. So it's just that he can't take the big starching hit and hold on. So use him down the field, use him as a vertical threat, but use him and keep using Guerendo. And to me, Damon, I think the Niners aren't better without CMC and Ayuk for sure. But if you put your speed on the field, they could still be very, very dangerous. Very dangerous team.
They were at their absolute best against the Chicago Bears, and there is very little time to sit here victory lapping whatever that win meant, because a more meaningful game is on tap for Thursday night. The 49ers will kick off the next week at Levi Stadium against the Rams. And look, Larry, we'll have a Wednesday morning wake up that will serve as the preview for that game. But just looking ahead right now, Stafford and the Rams just played out of their minds football to beat the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills still nearly rallied to win that game at SoFi Stadium. This ain't going to be easy. It's a gots to have it. Again, everything you did against the Bears matters not at all if you were to dump this game on Thursday. So I don't even think it's an exaggeration to say this is the whole season. Right here. The Niners playoffs sink or swim on Thursday. And when I say swim, I don't mean like Olympic size victory pool laps. They still tread water if they beat the Rams. It's a gots to have it game. It's the most important 4 quarters of football that they will play all year.
The Rams ran the ball yesterday 42 times. Now, they didn't run it well, but they ran it. Right?
They committed to it.
They had 42 runs. They only ran for 3 a carry. Kyron Williams ran for 3 yards a carry. So they just stayed with it. They just said, you know what? We're going to give away plays, but we're going to keep running. The other thing that really stood out about yesterday's game is that Buffalo got 0 sacks on Matthew Stafford. 0. Matthew Stafford's an older quarterback, but if you don't hit him and you don't sack him, they only got 3 hits on him all day.
He's not mobile, and he's actually got a little bit of an ankle right now that makes him less mobile than normal, but he will get that ball out on 2.5 Mississippi all the time.
The good news is that the Rams didn't do anything as far as rushing the passer in this game. They didn't sack Allen once. They only hit him one time the entire day. But the one thing about this game that's scary as hell is that in the first Rams matchup, there was no Puka Nacua. He had 12 catches yesterday for 162 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. And then Cooper Kupp, there was no Cooper Kupp, and he had 5 catches for 92 yards. We're talking about 17 catches for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns for just those 2 guys. In the first matchup, Tutu Atwell ate their lunch, and Tutu Atwell had 3 catches for 45 yards yesterday. So he's a burner. So the Rams are a scary team. But if you don't hit Stafford, he will absolutely eat your lunch, and he'll dial it back 10 years, and it's all of a sudden it's like, whoa, look at this guy. The Bills could not stop the Rams at all. So the Niners had better come up with a way. Hopefully Bosa plays. The Niners better put more heat on Stafford than Buffalo did, or it's going to be a long day, because I don't know that the Niners can defend Puka and Kupp and Atwell and Kyron and Colby. You know what I mean? The 49ers are going to have to dominate ball control. I mean, Buffalo ran for 6-1 a carry in this game. So run the hell out of the ball against the Rams and dominate the time of possession and see if you can keep Stafford and Puka and Kupp on the sidelines.
Yeah. Look, Stafford might be 36, but his arm is still 28. He's got a gun on him. He does. And the Rams got to feel very confident coming into this one. They just beat one of the best teams in all of football. They beat a team that obliterated the 49ers. They already got a win in hand over the 49ers.
They beat them 2 in a row, right? Didn't they beat them last year at the end of the year?
Yeah. They did, but that was a Carson Wentz game, right? I mean, that was a throwaway on both sidelines game. But yes, you are right. The Rams are looking to win 3 in a row here, and Kyle's got an awful lot of regular season ownage over McVay. And the Rams know they extinguished the 49ers flame. No one in football needs to worry about the 49ers again if the Rams come in here and handle business on Thursday night. So there's their motivation. And look, the Niners did respond being painted into a corner. It's a shame that it took painting them into a corner to see the best of them. Or as we said, maybe that is the Bears. Maybe this is an illusion. Maybe they are going to come right back down to earth in 72 hours. But this is why we go out and we play. And like I said, you beat the Bears in an impressive fashion. If you beat The Rams by a half a point, a quarter point, 1 point, a million points. Doesn't matter. You got to beat the Rams. Then you take your show on the road to Miami. That feels like a winnable game, even though the Dolphins pulled one out yesterday. And then it's a chance to change the narrative of the entire season because the Lions will be coming in. And if the 49ers show up and play well against the Lions, they absolutely will be wearing that crown of, team that no one now wants to play that was left for dead just a few weeks ago. And the Niners have come on like a gangbuster late in the year in spite of their injury issues. Let's see. I really wish Guerendo, look at it this way. If Guerendo can't go against the Rams, I don't know how they do it. I really don't.
Well, they're gonna have to run Keyshawn Vaughn and maybe Izzy Abanaconda, and they're gonna have to run Patrick Taylor. I mean, they have to run all these guys. More than anything, they just have to. They got to dominate the time of possession. The Rams in this game against Buffalo yesterday held the ball for 17 more minutes than Buffalo did. They ran 18 more plays than Buffalo did. I mean, that right there, you can't. Not only that, the Rams are good on special teams. Hunter Long had a return to block punt, 22 yards for a touchdown. The Rams are playing good ball. They've won 6 out of 8. They're healthy now. And, I don't know if you saw what Sean McVay said about Josh Allen in the postgame. He's like, Josh Allen is an alien. Some of the stuff that he can do and the things that he can create, we knew he was capable of that. He's shown that. That's why he's as well respected and well regarded in this league as he is. But our guys just made just enough plays to be able to come out on top. So McVay, McVay's a damn good coach.
If Josh Allen had 5 more minutes in that game, the Bills might have won it. I mean, they were coming on late there, and I think that Allen had, arguably one of the single greatest performances in defeat we've ever seen from a quarterback. 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. It's insane.
Well, Kevin, I have him on our fantasy team, and he single-handedly lifted us up.
You had a good yesterday. Jillian was getting skinned alive in fantasy football. I'm like, who are you playing against? She's like, well, I'm going against Josh Allen, and I went up against Jordan Addison yesterday. Had a monster too. So
we have Jordan Addison on our team as well.
Oh,
yeah. So
were you playing
Addison
Jillian yesterday? Is Jillian in your fantasy league?
I don't know, but let's see. I mean, now that you said that those two guys are so we got 51.8 points from Josh Allen and 35.3 points from Jordan Addison.
By the way, I'm in the saddest part of the fantasy football season right now. I'm in the saddest part of the fantasy football season right now, Larry. I've been rendered so irrelevant and so inconsequential that all I do is set my proper lineup to maintain integrity, and then I don't even check. I don't even check to see if I've won or lost. I don't even care anymore. That's where I am.
This has been the weirdest fantasy year I've ever played. We played in this league, and we got the first pick. And so we took McCaffrey. And it has been, and McCaffrey, obviously, I don't need to tell you guys, did not play this year. And yet we've won almost every single game we've played. We've already we're 10-3. We're first out of 10 teams. But if you look at our league standings, even though we're the number 1 team in the league and we've clinched the playoffs already, we're 5th in points.
Oh,
5th.
you're Mr. playing the only opponent that you would have beaten that weekend, week after week after week.
We're winning games, and we've clinched already the playoffs, the number 1 seed, but we are 5th in points scored. So somehow, some way, it's an incredible team, though. The Kruegerans, we're money. It's Josh Allen, Malik Neighbors, T. Higgins, Pollard, Laporta, Addison, Boswell, Brian Robinson, Brian Thomas. There you go. Jameson Williams, Keenan Allen, and Christian McCaffrey there for moral support.
I feel like you've already told us too much about your fantasy team. That's enough.
Well, I'll tell you though, I've had so many years where it's like I've had this awesome team and just couldn't win and just lose by a point here, 5 points there, whatever. This year, we're just winning every single time.
How much did you hold your breath? How much did you hold your breath, Larry, before we get into these supers here? How much did you hold your breath when Purdy went down looking like he was playing meaningless football in that fourth quarter? I thought hey, put in Josh Allen. And then Purdy's laying on the floor and you're like, oh, shit, that's not good. And then he walks up and he's throwing quickly. But, man, did everybody's heart stop for just a minute there?
Well, yeah, anytime you see your quarterback, like his head back.
Wahoo McDaniel. It wasn't even a cheap or bad hit. It was just football physics all working against him. He had a guy around his legs, and he was being brought down by his neck, and he was getting folded in half like a lawn chair. He's lucky.
I was looking right at his feet. Because it didn't look like he was taking tons of hits, tons of violence to the head. But I wanted to see are his feet trapped beneath him? Is he going to get something snapped off here? And no, sure enough, he didn't. But he said he didn't feel right. He came out. Man, it didn't look good. It did not look good.
It didn't. He's lucky nothing happened there.
Let's hit the supers. We got 15 supers here. Fuji Simeon says, been out sick. How can the 49ers pressure Stafford?
Win one
any way imaginable.
Yeah, get to him. Throw a timely blitz in there when you need to. But whatever. Look, we just saw the scrappiest defensive line effort of the year from the 49ers. So do that again, and hopefully it's good enough to beat the Rams.
Yeah. He has to feel the Niner defense or the Niners are going to lose this game. I mean, I'll just say that. Stafford is so good. He's got so many weapons. If he doesn't feel the Niner defense in this game and is just able to do what he did yesterday, the Niners are going to lose. Fuji Simeon says, when Trent comes back, should Moore start at right tackle? I think they ought to consider it. The way Jaylen Moore has played at left tackle, I think they ought to consider it. But I know McKivitz probably doesn't want to hear that. But
it's just not going to happen. It feels
they would have done it by now.
Yeah, it feels like when they're comfortable in a situation, whether we agree with it or not, they stick with it.
Yeah. Joseph Ernberg, yes. Officer, the homers right here don't pay Brock Purdy.
Trash. Okay. Well, how about this, Joseph? Make sure you let us know how wrong you were about that when it actually happens, because I'm going to guarantee you, the same way I guarantee you your mother loved you, that Brock Purdy is going to be signing for big money with the 49ers. And if you can't get comfortable with that, you need to pick another team to be rooting for. I
like how you've got a 24-year-old quarterback where the only debate is he top 10, is he top 5, is he top 12, but he is a top tier NFL quarterback. And there's nobody who'd ever say that he's not a top half of the NFL quarterback. And yet without any other quarterback, you're like, just don't pay him.
Just trash.
So what do you want? What do you want, Joseph? You want to hold out? How many teams have won the Super Bowl with their quarterback holding out? Go ahead.
And
I'll tell you, none.
Coming in again saying, Homer. No. Don't mistake me for a 49er fan. Okay? I didn't grow up rooting for the 49ers at all.
But either way, I mean, even you're a homer because you're saying pay your quarterback? What's the alternative? Joseph, how about this? Pull your head out of your ass and come up with an alternative. Instead of saying don't, instead of saying you're wrong if you do this, how about this? Advocate a right position, and then we can evaluate your thoughts. All right? But paying your quarterback, were the Eagles homers to pay Jalen Hurts? You have to pay your guys. It's time to pay Brock Purdy. You're going to pay him. Why would you not pay him? Because he hasn't had a perfect career. If you have I'm open to a better quarterback. Go ahead. You got one? Didn't think so. Big Dad 5'2", Larry, Sauna, Krueger, Damon, Basement, Bruce. No fighting this week after a Niner win. Best show on Monday morning. Keep feeding Kittle. There you go.
Cheers.
Fuji Simeon 13. Sorry for being Larry as a Reardon guy. Sorry for being Larry. As a Reardon guy, I pay homage to the late Bob Drucker, former SI basketball coach. His teams would destroy Reardon. He supported SI going co-ed because it would be another thing. SI was better than Reardon. Yeah, the late Bob Drucker, who was a great basketball coach. They used to call him the Wizard of Westlake. He was a phenomenal coach and a great guy and a terrific U.S. history teacher and a great family man. Joey Drucker, his son, grew up with Joey. The daughters, all great people. The wife, fantastic. nothing but amazing things to say about Bob Drucker. He's one of the greatest basketball coaches I've ever been around. He was an institution at St. Ignatius. And
by the way, I think Reardon is now co-ed too. Didn't they close the all-girls high school, St. Mary's? And I think Reardon is co-ed now as well.
I don't know that. I think you're probably right. Fuji Simeon says Reardon football beat SI in a number of Division One in number of Division One commits. Oh, good for
there
you go. It's a good school. Reardon's a good school. I've some of my closest friends. Bob Sargent went there. I know people that work there. Good place.
Butcher boy.
Joe Shasky went there.
He did.
Okay, there you go. Lee Noah says, "Whoa, 20 spot.
Thank you, coming in over the top. Thank you, Lee."
Fuji Simeon, draft a quarterback and watch Brock take the Rodgers path. Darkness retreats. Create weird locker room energy and vent publicly on McAfee. LOL, just kidding. Yeah,
no way.
Could you imagine?
No way. No, there's
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy's ayahuasca retreat. Just it ain't happening.
Kyle L. Damon, love the Purdy contract take. My Purdy jersey is hanging right next to me. Right next to my Tim Rattay jersey, reminding me where he came from as a 30-year-old Niner fan. Oh, nice. Tim Rattay. I don't see too many Tim Rattay jerseys.
It's in the history of jersey investment, that wasn't a particularly good one of them.
Joshua Wyatt, I don't care about the money. I care about time commitment. It's been 30 years since the last Super Bowl. I might have 30 years left to see another one. Is Brock worth 5 of those years?
I think so.
Yes. I would say yes. But you know what? I do. To me, my plan is the best plan. Pay Purdy, but then keep drafting quarterbacks, hoping that you can find a Hall of Famer. And if you find a Hall of Famer, then you trade Brock Purdy. You move off of Brock Purdy.
But Larry, the concept of Purdy becoming that Hall of Famer is not out of the question either.
Well, there's that. But if you really feel like, either way, I think it's a healthy thing for an organization, roster building wise, to keep drafting quarterbacks, because if you do land on one, you've got an amazing asset that you can trade.
At worst, it's an asset. At best, it's insurance.
Fuji Simmons says, I think his dad sells hot tubs on behalf of a vendor in a swap meet location. He comes from a hardworking, humble family. Yeah, no, I saw the video on it. They were in Arizona. In fact, one of Dan Coach Emilio, who's a friend of mine who lives in Arizona, one of his friends, Mark Graves, went out and saw Brock's dad, Sean Purdy, at one of the swap meet locations that they advertise their hot tub business in. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're, it's not like they're living on the street or anything, but I'm just saying they don't come from wealth. I mean, this guy's
they're normals. They're normal people.
This $150 million is going to be life-changing for Brock Purdy. Fuji Simeon says, thoughts on Soto's 15-year, $765 million deal, no deferrals deal. Okay, I'll just say it right now. And I'm going to say this, loud and clear. I love Soto, and I wanted the Giants to get Soto, and he's a great player, and he's a young player, and I think he's proven he can do it in the Bronx. The old saying, once you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere. He goes to the Mets. But it's $51 million a year for 15 years. There is no way in the world that Juan Soto is going to be worth $50 million at age 40, 39, 38, 37, 36, 35. I think that's for sure. So, I mean, that's $250 million that you paid that you probably shouldn't have paid. That's a bad contract, man. Yeah, that is a bad contract.
It's a bad contract the day it's signed, but almost not even from a money standpoint, because obviously to Steve Cohen, money's no object. But 15 years, there's no such thing as a 15-year contract anyone would ever ask you to sign. There is no 15-year lease on an apartment. 15 years means marriage. You should never enter a contract with anyone for 15 years unless it's the person that you are marrying, in which
What's
case...
the longest contract?
That's got to be it. That's insane.
Well, didn't the...
Here's the thing.
I'm not a hockey fan per se, but didn't
Rick... How does Soto make more money than Ohtani when he doesn't even pitch? That's what I don't understand.
I know. That's the other thing. I mean, he's an incredible hitter, but I mean, didn't Rick DiPietro sign like a 15-year deal or 12-year deal with the Islanders? There was like an NHL player,
but we're talking about a guy
a massive deal.
He's standing in the pipes, right? He's a goalie, right?
I don't know. I don't even know that much about Rick DiPietro, but I thought he signed either a 12-year deal. It's like one of the longest deals I've ever heard, but this is the longest deal. It's got to be the longest deal.
I just Googled longest sports contract in sports history. Let's see what we come up with here.
Do you see Rick DiPietro?
Well, they had Shohei Ohtani 10-year contract with the Dodgers, ranked number 1. And obviously what we've seen now from Soto, that eclipses that. So this is, I believe, the longest contract, along with being the richest contract ever handed out in the history of sports.
Let me just type in Rick DiPietro contract. It's got to be. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Rick DiPietro signed a 15-year, $67.5 million contract with the Islanders.
Right. Again, but he's a goaltender. The chances of him getting
that's the longest contract I've ever heard.
Yeah.
This is a goalie. So it just can't. I mean, like, could Soto be worth $50 million? Yeah, he could. Could he be worth $50 million every year? Okay. For a number of years. How old is he right now? 27, 26?
27.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think he could
26.
probably.
I think he's 26.
Okay, he could be worth $50 million for the next 5 or 6 years, but he ain't worth $50 million after that.
Well, here's what I also don't like about it too. Like a guy who's not even 27 years old, who is like a modern Ted Williams, is on his 4th team already. Like, that just cheapens the whole thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, Juan Soto, you in New York, you just chose the JV team. I mean, like, I'm reading all these stories about the Mets are now New York City's team. My balls, they are. It's a Yankees.
The only thing the Mets have the only thing the Mets have more than the Yankees is volume on the music at the games. Have you ever been to a Mets game? It's like a rock concert.
Yeah, it's loud.
Crazy.
Very loud.
Okay, I got to go here because we're at the end here. Fuji Simeon says thoughts on the Giants and Adames. Who else do the Giants need? The Giants need Corbin Burns. Giants need another outfielder. Giants need a 4th and a 5th place hitter. But I like Adames.
Go get Teoscar Hernandez. That's the next guy in line. I like
that. That's a good name.
I heard the Yankees are going to come after him hard now that they've lost Soto, though.
Yeah, I mean, Giants could use more. I mean, the Giants could use a first baseman. How about Polar Bear?
Let me just say that too.
How about an outfielder? How about Corbin Burns would be nice.
Everyone's saying like, oh, okay, so Adames hit 32 home runs. That doesn't even translate to 25 at AT&T Park or Oracle Park or whatever they're calling it now.
He's got reverse splits, by the way. He's a right-handed hitter who doesn't hit left-handed pitching.
Guess what, though? Like, the 25 home runs you're complaining about probably lead the team next year. I like him as a hitter. He's an okay shortstop. I've heard there are concerns about his attitude. Clubhouse guy, not exactly. It's Posey's first big move, though. And he locks up a pretty good player for, at the age where you want to lock a guy in, though. So it's a good start for Posey, but not even close.
You got to have a shortstop. And they're not that many out there. So I like it. I think you need another outfielder, and Corbin Burns would be nice. Ramon Gonzalez says, elephant in the room. Lance trade cost us young talent. We could have had 2021 Parsons or Rashawn Slater. In 2022, we could have had Karlaftis or Leo Chenal. In 2023, we could have had Jordan Addison. Meanwhile, Philly, Detroit, Seattle, Kansas City improved. Ramon, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
It's done.
You're not going to get a – but, I mean, he's done the correct autopsy, I think. Nathan says Thomas Brown had good tempo in the second half. Has in many games. McVay ties could be a good assistant for Kyle in 2025. We were on staff at Marshall together. Okay.
Oh, go Thundering Herd.
There you go. Nathan, my buddy Bill Urbanic used to coach for Marshall. He was the first coaching staff after the plane crash.
Ooh,
that killed that, when
the entire
Jack
team, half the team died.
Was it Jack Scarbrook or whatever who took it over? In fact, if you watch the movie, you'll hear him say, blankety blank and Urbanic, get over here. Like, and he called, and that was my buddy, Bill Urbanic. He coached, he's no longer with us. God bless him. But he coached the first team, at Marshall when they put the program back together. G. Verugezi says the issue with the Niners going forward is to have better scouting. The Rams will be intense. The Rams game will be intense. Great show, gentlemen. Niner Mafia says here's a single. Hit the strip club.
Boom.
Dan Piccolo. Larry uses the dumb guy voice to mimic the idiots who say fire Kyle or move on from Brock, but smiles and entertains it when Grant does it. If only you fought him like you do Damon. Damon actually has good takes, though.
Well, Damon does have good takes. He's right about that. My God, that guy, he's good.
Yeah. Dan, sounds like you're up in your feelings. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you to everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday. We're back with you on Wednesday this week. And then, of course, we will do a Friday show. The Friday show will be a review, kind of like today. Yeah. So Friday's going to be big.
Larry, what are we doing in terms of let's add a guest for, I think, Wednesday morning, right? Let's do a little review on the Rams.
Preview. Yeah, we'll preview. I'll see if I can find an LA person for Wednesday's show. But yeah, we'll do a full Wednesday show. We'll do a full Friday show. Friday show will not be from Santa Clara. Friday show will be from the studio, which will be better. And but we'll hopefully talk about a win on Friday.
Gotta have it. Go be a big boy
for us to bolt for the door. Overall, I'd say nobody won, nobody lost. More than anything, good old Trent Baalke's still in Jacksonville, and Mac Jones got it done for us this weekend, fellas. Mac Jones.
All I can say is that two things can be equally true. The Chicago Bears are not very good, but all of a sudden the 49ers, they were pretty good. So, I don't know where the truth is, but it's somewhere in the middle there. Taking me out.
The 49ers they're gonna win vis-a-vis Thursday night, and then what's gonna happen is I'm gonna come in on Friday. I'm gonna have some garlic fries. I'm gonna tell Tom, pick one. We'll take some phone calls, and people are lined up at 808 KMBR.
Pick one.